Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played for 11 seasons with those New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. Come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. And today, Tom, lots to talk about. But I want to start out because we're going to combine the two things, to the two loves of your life, hockey and cooking.
There you go. I like it. I like it.
You like it already, don't you?
Yeah.
I read a story this morning about Nikita Zadorov, who used to play for the Avalanche, and then ended up in Chicago, and then got traded again. This offseason ended up elsewhere. But anyway, he talked about life when he was with Colorado and how much your good friend, Mr. MacKinnon, wants to win. And he said that MacKinnon, is so driven that he spends like $100,000 a year on a dietitian and a nutrition. And at one point, he came into the dressing room and said, we're getting rid of all the sugar items in here. There's going to be no more white sauce on our spaghetti in here anymore. We're going to eat well. And he wanted chickpea pasta.
Yes. Nathan MacKinnon. All right.
Because he felt that, that was there's more protein in that.
Yeah.
And he said, you guys can all eat bad in the off season, but during the regular season, we're going to eat good in here. Because like a lot of NHL teams now obviously have that little kitchen in their, dressing room where they sometimes get lunch and such. And, he just kind of put his foot down. He said, we're all going to be in this together during the day.
Nice.
I know you like his menu choices, but is that a good thing? Does that bring a team together, or do they get ticked off?
Well, I'm sure there's some guys who are going to get ticked off. The young guys maybe don't understand what foods do to you. So like I was when I played. I didn't understand what foods did to your body, good and bad ways. But I love it. I think it's great. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be the leader of a team, and you're showing how much you want to win. Then you're not always going to be popular. I'm sure Mark Messier, I know he probably said things in the locker room that people didn't like all the time, but everybody knows his motivation, and his motivation is to win. And Nathan MacKinnon shows that every time he goes out the ice to me when I watch him play. So if I'm the rest of the guys, I'm going, you know what? I really don't like it, but you know what? This guy wants to win, so that's part of the choice. And listen, they can always go home and eat other foods they want, but I think he's saying at the rink, obviously, we're going to be disciplined and have the good diet. So I think it's fantastic. And I think maybe he's been watching our show and understands how good chickpea pasta is because of watching this show. That's probably the case. So
yeah. No sugar drinks whatsoever. No drinks with sugar in them.
Totally.
In the dressing room, and I guess he's quite serious about all this.
Right. It is kind of funny because I think back when I played, he spends $100,000 a year on dietitian. We probably spent $100,000 a year on beer. That was when we played.
Yeah. I found that whole story interesting. I know how serious people are about it. I remember talking to Charlie Coyle during it must have been 2 or 3 years ago when during part of the NHL media tour, and during the off season. He has all of his meals delivered to him. Yeah. All prepared according to his, needs, his protein needs, and what he feels he needs to have. And he's a pretty chiseled player, Charlie Coyle is. So.
I think it's an education thing too. Like I said, we just, for myself, I won't speak for other players, but most of the guys I think we're the same. We just didn't understand what the foods did for us, energy-wise, building lean muscle. Like even the intermittent fasting, how to me, I don't think you can do that as an NHL player. You don't have the schedule, I think, to do that properly. But for me, it's like making yourself mentally sharper, physically sharper, because you're healing your body from inside. So, maybe if here's the thing: if he starts eating sea moss, Nathan MacKinnon, he's watching this show. Definitely.
You knew what beer was doing to your body.
Bringing us pleasure and joy.
Yeah. That's for sure.
And stupidity too.
The other thing I want to talk to you about was this Evander Kane story.
Yeah.
And yesterday I saw another story. It was written about how some players on the Sharks really don't want him back. Thinking this is too much. Now we're gonna have to deal with this. He's been a disruption.
Yeah.
All of the above. And on one hand, I guess I can make the argument of, how often do you really got to deal with the guy in a dressing room situation, not all that. On the other hand, it can be disruptive. I don't know how I feel about all that. As a former player, how do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, it sounded like it wasn't just this one incident, too, right? It's been a series of incidents.
Yeah.
Just not getting along. Remember when Sean Avery made the rude comments about one of his old girlfriends when he was in Calgary? He was in Calgary coming in. He played for the Dallas Stars. And it was a big story. And then what I didn't like was that the other teammates, I get it. I get why they didn't like the comments. They're married men. They respect women, and he's saying something that's very rude towards another woman. But I would rather that just not go public. Like if you want to take them in the locker room, beat the out of them, fine. But when they come out publicly and they anonymously say things to members of the media, saying these stories, I have a problem with that. I have a problem, with the whole team part of it. That you're supposed to be a team. And yes, what he's did, if Vander Kane did the things that his wife is alleging, yeah, you would hate him. I'd hate him as a man. I think you and I are the same way. We don't treat women like that. So you'd hate that part. But again, that's something you do internally. That's not something that you even anonymously say to the members of the media. So I have a problem with that. I obviously have a problem with Vander Kane doing what he did, and I have a problem with Sean Avery doing what he did too. But I mean, again, if Vander Kane has done all those things, so yeah, to me, it's something that's got to be. It's a bad sign for the team. Listen, the issues and the victims and for the women, that's terrible. It's wrong. But as a team atmosphere, so that's really separating the team too. So I have a real problem with them making those comments.
Yeah, and if you're the Sharks, just what a mess the Sharks are.
Yeah,
they're not a good team.
Yeah,
they've got contracts that are impossible to move. Now, if there ever was a contract that was impossible to move, I would say it is Vander Kane's right now.
Yeah.
What a complicated mess this is. How do you even extract yourself from this if you're the Sharks, short of figuring out a way to render his contract null and void, which I'm not a legal scholar, but I imagine that would be also a very difficult challenge.
Well, if he's betting on hockey and betting on his own team, this may not be the Sharks' choice. Maybe the National Hockey League steps in and say, "Listen, you're gone."
Yeah,
I hate to say it, but they may be hoping for that. It's terrible to say it like that, but
yeah,
that's an easy way to get rid of him. So
yeah, I would be shocked, to be honest with you, if they find that he's bet on. I mean, even if you're a bettor, you know how far you can go.
Well, and if he is betting on the NHL, you would assume he's smart enough to do it in a way that he knows he can't get caught. That's going to be the issue. He may have done it. Again, I don't know that. But how's the NHL? If he goes, if he has some bookie where it's a cash deal or whatever, and there's no record of it, then how are they going to prove that?
Yeah, and plus, I've often, when I've heard this about throwing a game, in basketball when there's only 5 of you on the court, I guess you could throw a game if you wanted to, or you could really help if you just missed 8 shots in a row. But when you're a hockey player, unless you're the goalie, you're playing 16 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah. There's 45 minutes going on without you.
Yeah.
What can you do to assure you can give up your man a couple of times, but he may not score. To stop him.
And you may have, obviously, you would have inside information how your team, he may say, we're just not into it at all. We got injuries that we're hiding, those kinds of things that he may obviously would know about that other people wouldn't. But you're right. I mean, and even in that case, how do you know? It's pretty hard to determine if you're going to win or not. I mean, I don't know.
Well, the strategy of our game is based on picking someone up. So Vander Kane, or anybody, I don't want to use Vander Kane because I got no idea whether any of this is true. Yeah. But so you want to throw a game and you're Joe Smith. So you let your man go. You pretend you've lost him. Right. But, your defenseman, may check the puck away, and then the goalie may make a scintillating save. So,
and your teammates and coaches see that too, and they're going to know that he's doing that.
Right. So I don't know. I've always been sort of troubled about the idea that, even the Black Sox scandal back in 1919. How do you throw a game unless you're the pitcher?
Right.
You know,
But again, I hear you totally. I agree 100%. But it's the issue. Like, does he know stuff about the team that leads him to believe that we have a less than good chance of winning the game tonight? Right. That's the part that I would.
Yeah. Well, I get, but that's a little bit different than trying to throw the game. So,
yes, totally. I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's your question.
Both of them are bad, but
right. So would the Sharks be responsible to honor the contract if the league kicks him out? My opinion is no, they would not be responsible. He'd be gone, wouldn't get paid, contract would be null and void. They would still own his rights, I'm assuming, if that's the way it goes down. But
yeah, imagine. The one thing the Players Association has been really good at is protecting their players in due process too. So they wouldn't allow this to happen, and and you got to protect. This is no different than like the legal system where you got to fight like heck to even defend the guilty, so that
that's a great point, Kevin, because the rest of the players may be saying, "Don't help this guy." I mean, he hurt our team, but you can't let a precedent be set like that. That the league, from the Players Association side, they're going to fight because it's that precedent. They always talk about a precedent, so they just let the league do what they want here. It sets that precedent for the next time around in front of an arbitrator too. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, everybody in the Players Association, and again, I want to be careful on this because I don't mean this is actually true, but I'm just saying it's possible that everyone thinks that Evander Kane should be punished, but that won't stop them from going in and fighting for him.
Totally. Yep. He is a member. Yeah, he's a member of the PA. He has rights. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like being the defense attorney. You may think the guy's guilty, but he's still entitled to defense. That's the American legal system.
Right. And remember that was the case with Sean Avery too, right? I mean, when he made those comments, didn't he have to go into sensitivity training or something like that? Or sensitivity?
Yeah, I don't recall that.
Right. Didn't work too well though.
No, that's for sure.
People ask me all the time, and I don't follow him on Twitter, but apparently he's got some really interesting stuff on Twitter and Instagram or all social media. So
yeah. As much as I believe that if you're an athlete, you're best served by not being on social media. A lot of hockey players do not subscribe to that thinking.
Yeah. Totally.
A lot of them are not only active, but very political, always willing to mix it up.
Definitely. I got a funny story for you. Last night I went to a fantastic event. Have you ever heard of these National Night Out? The police put it on all across the country. So it's meant to be. I think it's gone on for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's meant to be a program where the people in the community can come. It's a free event. They come and mingle with the police officers and firefighters. They have all their equipment there and everything, so it's a fun event. So the Rangers, I represented the Rangers last night at the event. It's up in Long Island, so it's out in Islander country. And this young man, probably about 9 or 10 years old, was there. He had his Islander jersey on the whole bit. And I just went to introduce myself. I'm Tom Laidlaw. I used to play for the New York Rangers. He wanted nothing to do with me. It was hilarious. His mother was kind of embarrassed because she thought he was rude, and I thought it was fantastic. He was so loyal to the Islanders. As soon as I said Rangers, he just like put his hand up like this, "Don't come near me," like kind of thing. Yeah. The poor mother was mortified. I said, no. I said, "Don't worry about it." He was a cute kid and everything, but he had nothing to do with me. He didn't care who I was. I could have been Wayne Gretzky, but he didn't care. I wasn't part of the Islanders, and that's all that mattered to him. I actually said to him, I said, "Well, I played in LA too." And he goes, "Doesn't matter. Want nothing to do with me." It was pretty good. Yeah,
that's right. If you weren't Islanders. Well, it's funny. I just had a lengthy discussion with a friend of mine who has this theory that politics has become that we treat politics the way we treat sports.
Yeah.
And
sure.
The Republicans and Democrats those are just teams to us now. And we root for our team and we can't see any goodness in the other team. It's like the Red Sox and Yankees, the Republicans and
that's a very good point. That's true. That's true.
And he just said, we don't even want to talk about it. You're on the Red Sox? No.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with you. So
I agree.
And there is some truth to that. To be sure. So,
definitely.
A lot of other things going on. There's still some players floating around out there, and a couple of them, people think Lou Lamoriello has already signed. Palmieri, in particular, Cizikas, maybe with the Islanders, and that those contracts are tucked into his drawer. He'll announce them at some point, but he doesn't want the opposing teams to know how much space he has left because he has some restricted free agents.
Oh, I never thought of that. So he did that last year with Matt Martin too. He waited. He had him signed. Waited. Yeah.
In case some of them were preparing offer sheets. which I don't think will happen. I mean,
Right.
like offer sheets are such a waste of time. And
But I'll disagree with you though. The only thing they do, like in Lou Lamoriello's case, if he's up tight against the cap, or there's a perception that he is or going to be, you can put the offer sheet in, knowing I'm not going to get the player, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to force Lou to spend more money than he wants to. Now maybe he has to lose.
I run that theory by general managers. Go, here's the problem. What if Lou says, no, I think I'll screw the other team first. So he goes back, and then you've given an offer that really is out of line because you're trying to screw him. And then he goes, okay, I'll take the draft picks. Now it's on your team. Now suddenly your whole salary structure is screwed up because he called your bluff, and now you're the one who's victimized. And he goes, then your fan base goes, what an idiot.
Yeah.
So,
it's a good point. It's true.
He just said, now, and then you can say, well, you just make it a little, something that won't hurt you. Well, if you make it so it won't hurt you, then you're not hurting them.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
It's complicated. It's a complicated mess, to say the least. But is that legal? Like that is that legalized cap circumvention? Like what is that? Should you have to announce as soon as you have the player sign on the dotted line? I mean,
I don't think so. Like probably he does not have, because he's got a limited amount of time. Once the contract is signed and dated, I think it's like 24 hours or 48 hours. You have to get that contract in. So I don't think you would have a signed contract with the player. He would have an agreement. And that, that's a great point. Who else would be able to do that as a general manager? Because if I'm the agent, I'm trusting Lou Lamoriello and the player, trusting him totally. Right. So, and that's what Lou has built as far as a reputation, that if you are part of Lou's group, like you're like family to him. So if he tells you something, that is the facts. Because a lot of GMs, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't trust them to say, wait till the end of the summer and then all the other jobs are gone and now you've got no contract. So it says a lot about Lou with the reputation he's built, if that's what he's doing. And again, he did that last year with Matt Martin. So, but great point. I don't think it's cap intervention. I think it's just brilliant. He's built a career over many, many years of people trusting him. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of legalized cap circumvention, sort of what the Tampa Bay Lightning. Did, it's nothing wrong with it. I guess they'll try to address that in the next CBA. But
what, the Lou Lamoriello one? This case with him?
No, the one with the.
But you know what though? It's one of those cases where it doesn't happen that often.
No.
I hear you that like now it's happening. Everybody says we got to do something about it. I don't know. Do you? I mean,
well, I don't feel that way, but I know a lot of GMs do.
Yeah.
They're also bothered by this third party. How many times can you trade a guy?
Yeah.
And some of them are just totally miffed about the trading guys for nothing. So like we don't even go through the pretense. The Islanders just sent a bunch of guys to Arizona, a bunch of draft picks.
But who's it hurting though? I hear you. I mean, is it the GMs that haven't thought of themselves and they're getting beat to the punch? Is that what it is? Is that the problem? Like maybe they're not smart enough. Do it yourself then. I mean, it's not. I don't. Yeah, I think it's a GM being creative for his team and his fan base. I don't have a problem with that at all.
I don't disagree with you on that. But there's still guys floating around like Thomas Tatar is out there. Now, if you're Thomas Tatar and, we're playing musical chairs here, the music stopped, you have no chair,
Right.
And Thomas Tatar has, 6 20-goal seasons. He had an off year last season, but prior to that, very productive player.
Okay, but here's the thing though. So right now, nobody's losing hockey games. No fan base is screaming because you don't have the right players in your lineup. There's no pressure on GMs. Well, very little pressure on GMs right now. Not as much as there's going to be once you start getting into October, early November, there's games being played. I remember I had Brian Berard as a client, and he was with the Boston Bruins. We went to salary arbitration. They told us that they were going to walk away from the arbitration, so he didn't have a contract. And at that point, obviously, it's during the summer, didn't have a job. So I remember saying, okay, we'll just wait. We'll wait till the end of October. Somebody's going to have a team that they need a guy like Brian Berard. They're going to have injuries or whatever. And that's exactly what happens. And it happens every year like that. There's always teams that start off thinking they've got what they need. And then they realize, well, we don't. And here's this guy that's a free agent sitting out there. We can sign him. We're adding a player to our lineup and not taking something away from our lineup. So I get it. He's probably nervous and everything. But if I was him, I'd just wait and be patient.
Yeah. What, some guys don't like training camp just to get in the, get in the rhythm and but I mean, you don't come there to get in shape because, the guys are in shape, but you still got to get your timing down and all that.
That is true.
Is that a concern or?
It is definitely a concern. Yeah, and the injuries are also a concern too, because you can train all you want, but still you get into an NHL game and NHL practices, it is different. Like pulled groins and all that kind of stuff. So if it's going to happen, the player's now in great shape, like you mentioned before. So if that's going to happen to a player, he has to make sure that he really goes out of his way to be on the ice skating as best he can, even with a high school team or someplace, so that he can get in game shape. Yeah, you're right. It's not ideal. You don't want to do that, but I wouldn't be panicking if I was him. Like you said, he's a good hockey player. He can help somebody down the road. So,
yeah, to be honest with you, I'm surprised that someone hasn't come along and said, "Look, I'll give you $1 million."
Yeah,
because there are teams that have some room,
right? But it's also sometimes they're still doing it where they go on a PTO, they go there for a tryout.
Well, I guess what you're talking about is why players take those PTOs.
Yeah,
it's because they want to just be in there working out, playing in games, that kind of thing.
And then you're a free agent still in the PTO. There's I think that's the case now. There's a date on the PTO that when you sign it. I don't think it's a fixed date. I think you negotiate that with the GM. So at a certain point, then you then become a free agent. Up to that point, that team that they're on a PTO with, they're in that training camp, they own your rights if they want to sign that. But after a certain date, then you're a free agent, go wherever you want. So it does the problem. I remember Bill Waters when he was working with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I can't remember which player it was, but they wanted to bring a player in and on a PTO. But he said, listen, if he plays great, there's so much pressure on us from the media to get him signed. It puts them in a bad spot. So it's in some places. I mean, in Arizona, maybe it's different. Nobody's going to notice how well some guy on a PTO is playing, but that is part of the issue with teams.
You're probably the wrong guy to ask about this because you're really not in favor of Olympic participation. But we have this chunk now in our schedule that we've allowed for this. Now, there's been some issues that have cropped up here. We still don't have an agreement. Do you think we need to have a drop dead date for that? And either we do it, have it done by this, or
Well, yes. Logistically, I think you need to have a drop dead date. It also helps in negotiations too, right? I mean, if you're up against the negotiation, and correct me if I'm wrong, but does the league? I know the players want to go, but the league really doesn't necessarily. If they didn't go, it wouldn't bother them.
No, they would prefer not to go. Yeah, right. Yeah, they feel it's a real disruptive. Shutting down the league is hard. Like, it's not hard for the Rangers or the Maple Leafs. They start back up and everything's a go. But when you're the Florida Panthers, the Anaheim Ducks, the Nashville Predators, the Coyotes, where walk-up sales are important to you. Think people find something else to do. Right. So it's a concern for them, and plus it's hard for them to figure out what the value is to them. I can talk in terms of but the Olympics are so much bigger than our sport. So if we put our guys there, instead of having 1 million people watching you get 1 billion people watching you. Right. But they go, but what does that do for us? So
I know, So that's the thing. You and I have discussed this before. If I'm the league and I'm looking and going, okay, there's no added revenue. We're not getting new viewers to watch our sport because of that. So why are we doing this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in theory, you could get more revenue. I mean, if you're, like if suddenly one of your jerseys become hot property or Ovechkin merchandise become hot sales items in China or something, I don't know. And in theory, it could work out. But
it's never happened though, right? It hasn't happened all the time since they've gone.
No. I mean, I'm sure there's been a push. I mean, I'm sure there's been a little bit of an increase, but I don't think it's been dramatic.
Right. I'm not doubting you at all, but you told me that the players really want to go, right?
Well, I was just going to talk about that. Since you and I talked about, I've actually only seen one player since then, but I asked him about that. I said, Tom thought that might be overblown about vacation. He goes, oh no, it is not overblown. He said, we all would love having that time off because our wives, they almost all, anybody that's got a family goes to Disney World. The guys who don't have a family go to the Caribbean. Yeah. He said, we love that. We absolutely love that. Like
I guess it's just different. I would not have wanted 2 weeks off from the season. I'd come back feeling like it was starting all over again. So
now the guys left behind don't get the full 2 weeks off because they have to come back and you start practicing early.
Okay.
So I mean, it's a fairly good chunk, but I don't remember how many days it is. But
I'm sure. Yeah, and I'm sure the players.
If Susan's watching, she may know.
She probably will, yeah.
Your memories of it. But you start a few days early, and then the guys kind of come back and join you. But
see, I guess the difference is these guys take such good care of themselves. Like we would have tried to set a record for how many beers you could drink in 2 weeks if we got on vacation for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can you imagine taking your family to Disney World in the middle of the season?
No.
Yeah, like that's not,
Yeah. Well, back then the wives would look at us too, like, are you guys nuts? Like, you guys we just never acted like that. Even the hockey season, I'm not saying this is right. It's just the way it was when the hockey season started. Hockey season was it. I mean, we loved our families and everything, our kids and our wives and all that stuff, but then that was hockey season.
Well, speaking of that, I read some stuff too, and it makes perfect practical sense for it. But when you read it and people talk about it, you sort of cringe because it just comes across about how players will talk about and my wife does a great job of keeping the kids quiet when I got to take my game day nap.
Yeah, I know.
I get it from the practical standpoint, but I think you really shouldn't be discussing that.
I know. An adult male.
It sounds silly.
It does. It really does. Well, you think about the whole thing. I look back at your career when you're playing. It all sounds silly. I mean, it was just like we were like little kids playing hockey. We were little kids playing hockey. The same way we were 10 years old. We act the same way. So, Speaking of that, speaking of acting like little kids, here we got here this Ron Gresher. Jack Daniels shares would have went up big time.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's funny.
It certainly was a different time then. And the other thing too that's kind of come up and people have asked me about it. Look, players have gambled for a long time.
Yeah.
When you guys were playing, when you and Ron were playing, there were lots of card playing going on.
Oh, cool.
Lots of going to the track. A lot of betting going on, and not the legal variety. Back then, everybody had a bookie.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
very true.
You'd make your bets. But I would bet, using the vernacular of the thing, I would bet none of them would have ever considered a betting on hockey. It's just not something they would do. And really, it's hard to bet on hockey. And why is it hard to bet on hockey? Because of empty net goals. It screws up the everything. If a team is favored by a goal and a half, and most people don't realize this, but the vast majority of hockey betting odds are all a goal and a half.
Right.
And then it just makes it very difficult to pick.
And obviously, I'm in the minority here, but don't you think a lot of people bet? Okay, yes, they want to win some money, but it makes it more entertaining for them in some way too. I get bets on, right?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I like for a big football game like Super Bowl or in Michigan here, if one of our teams is in the Rose Bowl, I like the squares because it's interesting. Then you're watching and your team's winning, and you're going, boy, if they score another touchdown, I've got my zero.
Yeah, that's true.
That kind of thing. So it does bring. I mean, that's the lure of fantasy football as well. Is that first of all, every game that goes on suddenly matters to you, which is
that's true. Yeah.
So,
well, I guess I'm no different. I go play the lottery all the time. I play Powerball and Mega Millions, and every morning I wake up, I've determined that I'm going to win. Like I have decided that I have won that, and I know the odds are like 1 in 270 million, whatever. But I've convinced myself that I'm going to win. So
you and I are so different. How many times do you think do I play the lottery?
Never
even occurs to me.
The
only time that I buy a lottery ticket is when it's like $1 billion and everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
And Terry will say, "Hey, make sure you stop and get us one to give us a chance to win the whatever it is, the 100 and everything." And at Christmas time, I have this Allen family bowling thing, and I buy like 100 instant lottery tickets, which I give out as like if you get a strike when you're at a bowling tournament, you get an instant thing, and then you can win some money, and that's part of that. But that is the only time. And let me tell you a story about that. So I'm in line. It's around 5 days before Christmas, and our Christmas bowling tournament, which is an annual event with the Allens, was the next day.
Right.
And I stand in line, and I go up and I order 100 instant lottery tickets. And the woman behind me shakes her head, and she goes, "There's nothing more ridiculous than people like you giving instant lottery tickets for Christmas." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, that's not exactly what I'm doing, but okay."
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And I said, these are for a bowling tournament. She goes,
See,
yeah.
I would think to myself too, though. Okay, but what about the person that wins? Everybody's saying don't play. The odds are against you. And then the guy wins. He goes, "Oh, I guess the odds are against me. I won. I'm now worth $100 million."
Somebody's got to win. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, it's gonna be me. It's gonna be me too.
Yeah.
I go to the same place. I fear I've got a routine now. I've done this for years. I fear I've got a routine. I can't break the routine, so I go to the same place all the time. Guys are always laughing at me because I tell them I'm going to win. Like I say, give me the winning tickets. Give me the winning tickets. Never win, but I can't break the tradition. I have to keep doing the same thing, even though it hasn't worked. It has. There's sometimes where I win like $2 or something like that, and I'll go running in there. I'm yelling like, hey, yeah, get the money back up the Brinks truck, and he slides the little card in there. $2, Tom.
What's the most you ever won online?
I did win $500 one time.
Now, and how much do you think you've spent how many do you buy when you go in?
So I just buy one Powerball, 1 Mega Millions. So $4 every time. So $8 a week.
$8 a week. So
that's my entertainment.
So you about $400 a year you spend.
Yeah.
That's not horrible.
Yeah.
Because you see people that, or hear of people that spend like $100 a week on lottery.
Oh yeah. No.
So
yeah. So like some people say, well, you should try to pick your own numbers. I really like the odds are the odds. It doesn't matter.
No, I know. Yeah, that's for sure.
It is funny though with the lottery, right? Like people get fired up by winning $1 billion. Well, wouldn't you still get fired up by winning $20 million too? It's still it's like,
yeah, but I don't think anybody's disputing that.
But like you said before, everybody's like, "Oh, got to run and get a ticket." I usually don't buy a ticket, but when it's $1 billion, I'm going to buy a ticket. I mean, why not buy it when it's $20 million?
I don't know. I don't know why I don't do it, but it's because I like to gamble. I mean, I love playing cards. Although I hate playing cards with people who shouldn't be playing cards because then it destroys the fun for me.
Right.
So
here's this. I guess I'm a redneck. Here in the South, the lottery is the redneck retirement fund. That's good.
You like that? Yeah. Well, for some people that it's hope. I hate to say it, but
that's true.
It's the hope, the only hope they got. To kind of dig their way. My mother used to call it "wait for my ship to come in." That's what she used to call it. Getting back to hockey, we've kind of fallen off. Hockey.
We do that.
We talked last time about Marc-Andre Fleury showing up. And then subsequent to that, I saw a story, and we're all kind of gung ho about Jonathan Toews coming back. He said, I think he's going to play, and yet Stan Bowman said there's no timetable.
I read that. Yes, I read that. I was surprised by that. Yeah,
I was too. Now, even if there isn't a timetable, why is he telling us that? Like, I feel like he's telling us that. Like he's trying to say, well, don't be shocked if he's not there at training camp or he's trying to.
Stan Bowman usually doesn't say a whole lot, right? So when he says something, there's a purpose to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I that saddened me because I want Jonathan Toews back and I want him playing and I want him healthy and.
Okay, so I'm Mr. Positive, so I'm going to give it the positive spin there. Him not playing. So if they feel like we don't know the timeline, but he will be coming back. So some other player now would be taking his spot in the lineup and getting significant ice time. And assuming it's going to be a fairly young player or some young player is going to be moving up in the lineup. So he's going to get more ice time and be a better player because of that. And then when Jonathan Toews comes back, so now the theory is you have a much better team, right? Toews is back. Another player has gotten added ice time. So to me, and again, they played the whole year without him last year and they played pretty well last year. So,
well, yeah, they did, but I don't know.
No, I'm with you. Yeah,
I just didn't like to, to read that because I think all of us were just kind of expecting, okay, he's gone through this. We've identified the illness. We're dealing with it. We still got time. 6 weeks till training camp?
Right.
So there's so much going on that.
Here, I want you to make a prediction here. Will Henrik Lundqvist be playing in the National Hockey League next season?
I don't think so. I've thought about this too. I want him to play because I really, really like him. But, just like we talked about, it wouldn't be good for him to come back to the Rangers.
Right.
But I'm just not sure. If you look around, there's nobody else looking for a goalie.
Yeah. What about a place like Arizona or something like that? Would they? Do they need?
Well, I don't know why he would go to Arizona.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point. But I guess I pick Arizona because I'm thinking, all right, there isn't that media pressure on the team like there would be in New York or something like that. He would go there and kind of play a little bit more. It's a beautiful place to play and live. But all right, he's a New York guy, so maybe that wouldn't even fit for him. But
plus they're going to be a terrible team. If you're going to be Henrik Lundqvist, you want to play with someone that adds to your win total, that give you a reason to come to the rink every day.
Right.
So,
what if Carey Price can't play in Montreal? Does he go to Montreal?
Well, I mean, they do have a fairly decent backup there, and that's the reason that they let him go. So, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's done, but nothing would be surprised me. He's a very competitive guy, and
totally. Right. How about Zdeno Chara? He hasn't signed yet either, right?
Well, no, he was another guy I was going to bring up as well. But and he's 109 years old, but he could still help somebody.
Oh, definitely. The leadership in the locker room alone. Oh.
Well, yeah, man. Plus, he's still serviceable. I mean, like he's if he's on your third pairing, you feel pretty good about that.
Absolutely, definitely. I'd love to have him in my team. Yeah.
Yeah, and some people have said Lou Lamoriello, Long Island.
Barry Trotz. Oh, no, Barry Trotz was in Washington. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Funny thing, I was at this event last night again too. People are so fired up about Ryan Reeves, the Ranger fans. Like they're going around chanting Ryan Reeves. Yeah, they're excited.
Yeah. I mean, I think the build-up for that first game, is will be like a playoff game.
Yeah.
I don't know of a game that people are looking more forward to than that one. I don't hear people saying, "Oh man, I can't wait till the Tampa Bay, Lightning play whoever." But they're sure saying, "Boy, Rangers Capitals."
Well, that will be exciting. That would be good.
Yeah. Now, plus, if you're Tom Wilson now, you got to fight him.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And I watched. We talked this the other day. I watched those two play against each other when Reeves was still in Vegas, and Wilson was not too. He wasn't playing the same way against Vegas as he was against the Rangers. Put it that way. Yeah.
Well, and again, I think the bark is worse than the bite sometimes with Reeves. Just the intimidation factor.
Yeah.
The other thing about Reeves is the enthusiasm for the project. Like, when he gets into it, he's into it.
Totally.
You're not getting a guy who's half-hearted about it.
Right. And it's the whole show. Like he's not just going to beat you, but he wants to embarrass you too.
Well, he's fully committed. He's all in. And that's the thing about. We've talked to Ranger fans will remember Joey Kosher. Bob Probert was the greatest heavyweight that I've ever seen, but Joey Kosher was more dangerous.
Yeah, the right hand of his. Ooh.
Well, plus Joey was fully committed right from the beginning. Where Bob, he was kind of a reluctant. He had to poke the bear a few times. Once he took a couple of punches, then he let loose hell and fury upon you. But when it first started, he was just,
And then Clark Gillies was the same way too. Like we used to talk in the locker room, just let him sleep. Don't get him mad.
Right.
Yeah. We were on a show together, or had a buddy of mine that did a show, talking about coaching, and Clark and I did it together a couple weeks ago. And I told the old story about Carol Vadnais saying to me, "Tommy, when you go to the front of the net with that Gillies, you punch him right in the chest." And I told the story, and he was dying laughing because he would get this one eyebrow across the top of his head. He says, "Yeah, go tell Vad to get out on the ice now. You got me mad." So
yeah, that's for sure. Anyway, we've probably gone too long here, but we appreciate you tuning in and watching this. If you want to read me, I'm at hockeybuzz.com and also DetroitHockeyNow.com.
And again, if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co, and our station is 365 Sports. Again, it's radio.co at 365 Sports. We'll see everybody next week.